Hi. Seeing how this project it grows larger by day, I've decided I'd rather record a video to kind of explain you what's inside and perhaps to spare you the pleasure of reading this nice formatted README file, which you are of course welcome to read. So here we go. Let's just take a peek at what's there in the project directory. Here, you perhaps recognize me. This is an Apache and build file. Just take a quick look. This is the test target, and this is the default target. Um, it's well, unless you've seen it, this is the Adobe end task. In order to find it, you need to set the flex home variable, and for me it's where I build the flex SDK. For you it will be where you have your SDK installed. This should be the bin directory of your SDK. Additionally, you need to specify where you place the play global swag, and that will be usually somewhere inside your SDK, but perhaps if you build it yourself you have to know where you put it. Next, config. This is not the build configuration. This is the configuration of the program after it's been compiled. Let's just take a quick peek. Key bindings. Key bindings follow the Emacs traditional scheme of naming the bindings. Unless you are familiar with it, this means Control H. And this means the left arrow, and this means control right arrow, and this is what happens when you press the left mouse button, and this is when you release it. Server settings. In a few we'll see what server means and why do you need these settings. Just before we dive into it, this is the URL where our servers local servers you see listens, and this is how do you want the services to be invoked, and these other names of services, they coincidentally they correspond to the file names, PostScript file names that will be served. Well, see soon what does it mean to serve that PostScript file. Server. These are the PostScript files being served just for you to see. PostScript is a programming language. It's the stack array manipulation language. As far as I remember, I'm not sure about the formal definition. What it means, it uses reverse policy notation, arguments first, function last, and this kind of makes it very easy to write interpreter for it. And although we implement only very limited subsets of the PostScript, it can be extended, so perhaps someday. The server itself, here it is. You see it's written in Python, and it's really very tiny, very basic. All it does is just, I don't need this. It parses some input. No input actually required. It's only if you know how to run it with special settings. Otherwise, it will run as you see on localhost port 8080. Here it serves some services which we just saw in the configuration file. Here it can also serve some static content like HTML, some images, SWF, CSS. We have no CSS, and anyway. The project is being versioned by Git version control system. Well, you've probably guessed it. README. This is the README file. Well, if you know how to use Emacs Org mode, then this is something that you'll be already familiar with. If you don't know, then it's not the Emacs Org mode tutorial, so we will just skip on it. So what we just seen, spec PDF, is the specification PDF, which is what I've been using to write this project. And before we dive into the source, just a quick peek into the tests. Here's the test suite. Test suite runs only one test, which what it does, it takes this very tiny PostScript program and it interprets it here, and it draws the content generated by running this program into this tiny shape, and then it places the shape on the screen. Next, templates. These are the HTML templates I've used to help me debug this in the browser. Just a quick look at it. Let's use only the HTML, no JavaScript. It appears that you can embed Flash without using any JavaScript, and this is kind of works in all browsers. I tried, of course not Internet Explorer, because I didn't try Internet Explorer because I don't have Internet Explorer, but maybe there is some surprise for me waiting somewhere out there, but who knows. Some stuff I need for debugging. Perhaps you already know what all this means. What else? Okay, so here goes our source. Debugging is, as you will see shortly, it's what helps me to output stuff into JavaScript console. Basically, it's the marshalling code for external interface to kind of transfer my arguments, my debugging information into JavaScript console. Functions is really single utility function. I needed it for some stuff inside what we'll see later. PostScript is the PostScript interpreter. Here's the interpreter itself. Nothing spectacular. It's, as you can see, it's only some 53 lines of code, and here is the helper for this interpreter. Again, some, I don't know, 84 lines of code. Perhaps some interesting classes would be this one, and it is interesting because it implements kind of tokenizer. It acts as a lexer for PostScript, but it could be used as a generic lexer. So you can see it reads token at a time and then tells someone who wants to read this token, like in a synchronous way, to read this token. There are actually two of these classes. There is a paralleling class which is called sync stream. It does the same thing but reads from the stream, and this one reads it from the HTTP stream. And the application itself, this is the application main entry point. The important bits of the application are the canvas, the stash. The canvas is where you drag stuff and rotate and move it, and stash is where you store your shapes. Event server is where you connect the bits of application together, this is the configuration file history. I ended up not using it, but technically it should be possible, like a undo functionality. PS is the higher level interface for PostScript interpreter. Some just technical variables, initializing them, loading the services, interpreting, and some utility function for drawing some stuff into the screen. Bus is is where your event server lives. Event server is actually a kind of observer which uses commands. You asked me to kind of showcase some design patterns. So here we have a command pattern, an observer pattern, and client-server interaction all in one piece. So and inheritance. So you have the base server implementation, a concrete implementation of an interface, and this concrete implementation has some basic functionality to connect a couple of clients, and this is the extended version of this implementation, which has a more kind of functionality. The commands it can broadcast to clients, and then the clients can call it back. Let me see. No, echo is not here. Echo is probably here. Here, yeah. This is kind of where the client can call the server back immediately. What else? Config. Perhaps I would have to drive your attention to this tiny bit of code because this is somewhat untypical, unusual way to embed resources, and you would kind of expect the configuration file to be loaded after the application starts, but this is actually the default configuration file, and it's built into the application, and this class reads it. You see it uses the JSON parser and then creates the objects from the configuration file, and then it provides some very general interface for other programs to access the loaded configuration. Stage is where I manage the graphics. This is the base concrete implementation of iClient. You see this iClient, this interface is implemented here. These are two subclasses of this base client. Canvas is this large blue area, and stash is this smaller area. I think I'll spare you the details, and we'll just load up the application and see how it functions. So you see it's loading the services, and it parses the PostScript, executes it, and here you receive the geometry shapes. The stash is the storehouse. You can't add figures at will. You can only drag them into the canvas and then duplicate them by dragging, just add some more stars. And then, as you remember, the specification asked me that you could just swap them by dragging them over, and that's what happens. You can also move them by pressing the arrows. You can rotate them and rotate them again. There was a late discovery about PostScript. It has its y-axis facing down, while Flash has its y-axis facing up, and I had to very swiftly rewrite the code for kind of handling this strange situation, and this is why the shapes don't rotate around the center, they rotate around their left top corner, I believe. Deleting here, you can delete the shapes by dragging them off the canvas. And yes, that would be it. Thanks for watching.